What's happening? This is Djordje, your friendly neighborhood bullfiddle cat, and welcome to the first episode of the Slapstream, live from Slapsville. Have a little feedback here, so I have to figure out how I'm going to do that. Live from Slapsville. How do you hear me first? Feedback here, so I have to figure out how I'm going to do that. All right, this is the first time, so bear with me. Do you also hear this twice, whatever I'm saying, from my monitor or not? All right, this is the first time, so bear with me. Do you also hear this twice? All right. What's happening, Bad Bruja? Thanks for the comments. All right, welcome to the first episode of the Slapstream, live from Slapsville. And, oh, you do hear the feedback. Oh, damn. Let me try to turn that down. First episode of the Slapstream, live from Slapsville. And let me try to turn that down. All right, it should be better. If it's not too annoying, or if it's too annoying, let me know. All righty, so first of all, I would like to welcome you all. We received like literally hundreds of emails from people all over the world that wanted to join us for this kind of historical slap-based thing. And I'm really excited about this. It's, you know, I can't, it's kind of like a dream thing. I can talk about the thing that I love the most, which is slap bass. And I can interview some of my favorite bass players. And I did a little sneaky thing. I decided to ask everybody that I'm going to interview, like, to show me their favorite lick. So that way I get a little free lesson. And you do too. So please, if you're not, subscribe to my channel. And so that way you can see all the slap bass videos that are coming. And there'll be plenty. And you can learn, hopefully, something from here. Make sure to tell me in the comments who would you like me to interview next. I have a few people in mind, and I would like to continue doing this for a long time. I would like to present slap bass into the normal world, or like the world of slappers, so that everybody become aware of our art. All right, so first thing that I would like to mention is that one of our originators, Al Rex, from Bill Haley's band, died a couple of weeks ago, and we did a little tribute on the Art of Slap Bass website. And if you're not familiar with Art of Slap Bass, you should go and check it out. There's like really tons of info about it and on the website. And you know, Al Rex was really amazing player. Not many people are aware that he was, I mean, for me personally, he was the original Bill Haley's bass player. He was not the original Comet in Bill Haley's band, but he was the guy that played with him in the late 40s in a settlement, and then he left. Then later on, he rejoined again after Marshall Lytle left. So he left us a couple of weeks ago. I believe that he was 91. I had luck to talk to him about 10 years ago. I was trying to convince him to do an interview for Art of Slap Bass, but he was not interested. But he was very polite, and he was nice, and I'm kind of stoked that I had a chance to talk to him. But anyway, so check out the article on artofslapbass.com about Al Rex. For me, he was the guy. He was really the guy for the for original rockabilly or jump blues, slap bass playing from the 50s. A little bit of a country too. He had a solo career, but you can read all about it. I tried to get in touch with his family members, with people that knew him, his friends, and I think that I collected pretty accurate data for that little tribute we did on Art of Slap Bass. So I head out to Art of Slap Bass, and of course, please follow Art of Slap Bass. It's not just me now. Like I want to give the shout out to Ryan Gold, who's doing a fair amount of writing, especially about like old jazz style. If you're not familiar with Ryan, go to Art of Slap Bass again, and then check out his interview. He was interviewed like about 10 years ago, and he did a great job as always. So thank you, Ryan. And so yeah, follow Art of Slap Bass on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're not that active on Twitter, but we might be. There might be some other guy who really wants to do Twitter. All right, without further ado, I'm really, really, really excited about this first episode. It's Kevin Smith. He's the guy for rockabilly. He for last 20 years, he's pretty much the person that pushed rockabilly style, especially rockabilly, but country as well, to the kind of like higher level of playing, and not just technically. And I noticed lots of people talk about his drag slaps, or how does he do this, or how does he do that. That's all important. I love the technique, and I never thought that sometimes less is less, but more is more and less is less. So it's I think that it's important to be aware what you can do at what time, and that's especially important for Kevin's playing. And I remember first time when I heard Stranger Things by the High Noon, I was blown away. I was a kid, 12-year-old or so, and then I was like, oh, finally there's somebody that knows how to slap. I was a little older, maybe 15 or 16. I was already playing bass for a couple of years, and I was fairly good, but I was looking for someone that you can all right, how can I improve that? And then I heard that roll slap or drag slap, whatever you want to call it, and I was really impressed by Kevin, especially his sense of arrangement. He was using slap at the right particular spot, because slap is, as they say in Untitled Art video, they said it. I believe it was Kevin, might be Mark, but I believe it was Kevin that said slap is like having a knife, and then you're ready to use it, but you don't want to use it. But you're ready. So you can hear that sharp edge on his playing. One of the songs that there are a few solos on that record that we're going to talk with Kevin about that. I believe it was Slow Bound. It was kind of like a slower song, but he used that roll slap like a really particular moment. It kind of made the song for me. All right, without further ado, I want to introduce Kevin Smith. I'm proud to call him my friend. He's one of the best slap bass players of all time, I would say. Definitely in rockabilly and country. Everybody should know him. And I'm really honored to have him on this first episode of the Slapstream. So I'm going to add Kevin now.
Hey, Djordje.
Hey, Kevin.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you? I'm excited to have you here.
Good. Can you hear me okay? Everything's good?
I hear you fine. I had to turn down my monitor a lot, but it is what it is. I might add my headphones if I had a problem, but it's more important how the audience can hear us. How do you feel today?
I'm feeling pretty good, considering I was up late last night hanging out with some friends. So
okay. Yeah, we don't have much to do besides hanging out with family and friends these days.
Yeah.
I heard that bar's going to be opening slowly, so we might get a gig.
Yeah, right. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we're all excited about it. I will have to add these headphones because I can hardly actually hear you, and I would rather enjoy this than have
Yeah.
then look good.
I'm enjoying seeing all these the comments.
Yeah, I
Jack
didn't have a
Rooney,
chance.
who's a buddy of mine, Stefan Furley, excuse me, in France, who's a wonderful guy. Morgan Janning of the Old Crow Medicine Show. All these great bass players. That's it's very nice and it's a little intimidating. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah. well, we're here to present our art, and we want to create like a friendly neighborhood, friendly atmosphere, so that everybody
Yeah,
enjoys. So I still have this little feedback. All right, whatever. I'll survive and figure out for the next time.
yeah,
All right, I want to mention the first time when I met you. I think it was the first tour that I did with Deke Dickerson, and I was really excited about coming to Austin, and I knew that I want to talk to Kevin, and then chat with you, and you're always skeptical when you're meeting other bass players, and I always want to meet everyone, whoever, especially people that I respect, and but it went, we became friends ever since. You did an interview for Art of Slap Bass. You stayed in touch. Every time I'm in Austin, we hang out. When you're in LA,
yeah,
we hang out. I'm
yeah.
thankful for our friendship.
Me too, man. And it's all there's that brotherhood I think that slap bass players have. It's of course bass players in general, but if there's you meet a bass player and there's a little bit of slap involved, it's like this guy he's deep. We gotta compare and see what's going on.
It's a special community for sure. All right.
Yes.
I want to first talk about, I don't want to talk too much about strings and a little bit about setup, but like those details, because everybody can find out that like from your Art of Slap Bass interview, and they can learn. But I would like one thing that I'm really interested in. Like I heard you talk like quite a few times that um, you started with when you got hooked up on slap bass, like because of the Stray Cats and Elvis, and then Paladins, and you developed, by my opinion, you developed a very unique style. So I would like to hear about that process. Like how did that go? Like how did you develop? Lee Rocker has kind of like a rock sound that I kind of stuck to it and developed it in my own way with the bands that I play with. But you created your own thing that it's powerful and vintage and warm, and I would like to hear about that process. And then also, like, if you can mention, I don't know, what was the first lick that you learned, if you remember.
Yeah. Uh, the first lick I learned was just kind of like a Johnny Cash two beat. Because that's all over that Sun stuff. And when I first started playing rockabilly with High Noon, that was the first band I had played upright bass in. And as we started playing, we used that beat a lot. It fits in so great with country music and with dancers. So when we started playing, another thing that really helped me develop how I wanted to play and my sound both was we were playing in honky tonks 5 or 6 nights a week. So we were playing 4 hour shows almost every night. And if we weren't playing a show, we were rehearsing. So that really built up my stamina, and that was a huge help. And I also had a 4 hour show without a drummer, so I could do a lot of experimentation. And I always had Sean Young's rhythm guitar behind me, and he was such a strong rhythm player that I could really kind of move around and do a lot of different things that I wouldn't have been able to do, or that wouldn't have been heard with a drummer. So that was really essential for me, was being in a band with no drums and then just playing all the time. That was what made the hugest difference.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, just I think that like playing without drums also means a lot, because you kind of have to keep the groove and be the bass player, and um, kind of like fulfill both duties. I would like to hear about your influences, especially at that time. You mentioned Lee Rocker, you mentioned Thomas from the Paladins, um, but I always hear you like more like influenced by. I mean, when I listen to you, like I hear that you're more. I hear more about like a Western swing, and kind of that type of vibe. And uh, when did that come? Like, how did you? Who are the guys like that in general influence you those like first 5 years of your playing?
Um, well, I mean, we started playing rockabilly, and we did that for a long time. And as I got into that, I played really extremely physically, really hard. And then I kind of felt like, well, if I keep doing this, it's not something that's sustainable. As I was also becoming more accustomed to hearing Texas folk music, traditional blues and Western swing and conjunto, uh, that kind of stuff. Uh, I mean, with High Noon, I was playing with an SVT, and this is a band with no drums. So I had just massive sound, which was really fun, and it sounded great, but also kind of unsustainable. So as I started listening to all these other types of music, I started to try to kind of hone my technique just a little bit and try to lighten my playing a little bit. Um, with for instance playing with Ronnie Dawson, we played so hard and so heavy, so it was a challenge, and I knew that it was important to my playing to be able to lay back a little bit and to be able to play a little bit of a lighter feel and still make sure there's a good solid danceable beat underneath. So it was about Texas folk music. That was what I was trying to learn, and that led me to a slightly lighter attack than I had with High Noon or with Ronnie Dawson.
Yeah, it's all about it's kind of like all about the attack. And like we're talking about Western swing, I would like to mention also conjunto. You were influenced. When did that come? Like, when did that influence come?
Well, as I was developing as a slap bass player, I was living with a guy named Mark Rubin, who I believe is watching. I saw his name on there. And so Mark Rubin was way into traditional folk music. So I was into rockabilly and punk rock and that kind of stuff. But being around him, he was the one who was bringing home the Arhuli conjunto records and that kind of stuff, the folk lyric conjunto records, and putting on these conjunto records. And I'm hearing slap bass from the 30s in music that I didn't even understand or really even knew existed. This small combo conjunto stuff where there would be a button accordion and the bajo sexto, which is like a 12-string guitar, and a slap bass player. So it was similar to the lineup that I was playing in with High Noon, and Mark Rubin, who also had a drummerless kind of acoustic trio. So we were both in that house. He brought so much stuff in, and I learned so much from him. And that's where I learned the conjunto stuff. Shortly after that, there's a guy in Austin named Don Lee, who played with the Tailgaters, and before that, he was in the original Leroy Brothers, uh, uh, great Austin roots bands. And Don Leedy was learning how to play conjunto accordion, and his bass player JJ Barrera was also a great bajo player. And so we put a little trio together, and called Los Cadillos, and we started playing. We had a weekly gig at a tiny little Mexican restaurant in South Austin, and I kind of feel bad for the people that were in. We'd have to wander around in this tiny little restaurant, and there would be people 3 or 4 feet away with me just beating that bass like crazy, and I'm sure that they were none too
Oh,
thrilled. But the gig
I
lasted
would
a
have
few.
loved that I had a chance to see that. That
I
reminds
loved
me
it.
a little bit on like how we do it in Serbia. like there are also little bands that, you know, traditional bands, or that they would play like from table to table, you know, for the tips, and then
Yeah.
they would, you know, somebody who, you know, has money would like, hey, like, you know, here's, come here, and then
Yeah.
they, you know, the band come there, and then just play, and it's loud, and people, you know, break bottles and glasses, their forehead, and all kinds of stuff like
And
that.
most
Um,
often that kind of music would be some kind of traditional folk music.
yeah.
And
Do you
I'm
mind like playing something in that style? Like, you know, do you have like anything that you can play with that
yeah. So
in
what I'm going to
Cajuto
do
style?
is I'm going to play along with a Los Cadillos track. So I'm going to put some headphones on, and you'll be able to hear it a little bit as well. But I can't hear it without having the headphones on. So I'm just going to play along with a little bit of that, and we'll see how it goes. So let me get set up here, and I'll let you know when I'm ready.
That's great.
Okay.
All right, I'm not sure like if you guys are familiar, and how much are you familiar with Conjunto? And there's slap bass is kind of the essential part of Conjunto, and it's Conjunto is type of Tex-Mex music, and I would recommend a record that actually, I believe Mark Rubin gave me that record. So shout out to Mark. I hope to see Mark on one of these slap streams. And he gave me a record that was called no, Conjunto from San Antonio from the 50s or 1950s, San Antonio Conjunto, something like that. It was great. The best ones for me were Don Santiago Jimenez Sr., and I remember that it was Juan Viesca on those recordings, and he was excellent. He played with there's another record that also with Santiago Jimenez Jr. I think it was called First and Last Recording, something like that he did in the 50s and 70s. I might be wrong, but I didn't check these facts. But like this is something that I remember from, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. But I really enjoyed that record. So I think that Kevin is ready, and I'll have him back here.
Okay, here we go. So I'm going to give this a shot. This is playing along with my old Conjunto band. So big shout out to Don Leedy and Djordje Barrera. So we'll see how this goes here.
Oh man, that's great.
Thank
I
you.
love Conjunto. Hopefully, you know, this little thing gonna turn some of the people like to this great style, and then, you know, maybe we'll. I'm not. I haven't heard many bands that are into this style uh, anymore. I played with I forgot what was the name of the band. Um, I'll remember it, but and then I recorded one song for them, and they wanted me to do also that type of style, and I think I'm gonna do a record with them. I forgot what was the name. Intocables.
Okay.
They're based in Texas somewhere, but Mexican band. I noticed that I love playing with Mexicans and hang out with Mexicans and drink with
Yeah.
Mexicans.
Well, you've been down
So
to.
so what is your thing? Like, where is Conjunto now?
You know, I don't know. To be honest with you, I love playing it, and I haven't played it in years. I've been so busy raising my family and touring, and doing that kind of stuff that I haven't really played any conjunto in a long time. Now that we've got this little bit of a slowdown and I'm actually going to be home for a while, I would love to get together with Don and JJ again and play some conjunto. I hadn't heard that CD that I just played a little bit of in a long time. And as I've had this time off, I was cataloging my CDs and records, and I found the original Los Cudillos CD. And I said, wow, okay. So now, and I listened to it. Oh, it's so much fun. So I'm hoping to maybe do something with them sometime soon.
Are these recordings available anywhere, or like the song that you played? What is the name of that song?
I don't know.
I don't know. Are there any more?
There are. I think we have about 20 tracks, and they were home recordings, and they're a little bit lo-fi. So I'm not sure if we would release them or not. But
I'm sure that our audience would love to hear them. Like you should.
Yeah.
That's like a full-on record.
Yeah, we'd have to clean it up, but yeah, it's really good. I'm really proud of it. It was a lot of fun. Really fun to play with those guys.
I bet. All right, we're following the comments, and you guys, if you have any slap back to our whatever we're talking, make sure to write it down. We'll check it out. Hey, Joy Simeone.
Nice.
Miss you. Hope you're doing good. Hey, Mark. Piñata Party in San Antonio. Is that the name of the record? All right. So let's move on. One thing that I don't think that outside world, like in general, outside of bass, especially slap-based world, is not aware how hard it is like to get a gig. Everybody wants to have a gig. And I think that you and me are kind of like among few fortunate enough that, among us, that we had like a couple major gigs, and that makes all the difference. You don't travel in a van, in a car. It's a little bit more comfortable. It's more sustainable. It just makes more sense. What would be your advice how to get a gig? Like, what is the path? Like, how did you get all these great gigs?
I don't know. One thing was that I played all the time, just played all the time in Austin. At the time, there was, I was playing 6 or 7 nights a week for almost 10 years, probably. Just really, really working hard. And while I'm doing that, I'm learning different styles of music. I'm developing my my tone through an amplifier. I'm listening to different grooves with drummers, and just being as open as possible with everything, and not really saying no to a lot of stuff either. Getting some gigs where I was like, man, I don't know if I should do this or not, and then something in the back of your head says, oh yeah, you should do this. Somebody's gonna pay you $50 to have a bass in your hand, so might as well go do it. I'm not going to stay home and watch TV. So it was that, and also I was very fortunate that I had some people who kind of helped me out. Ray Benson from Asleep at the Wheel had always given me. He enjoyed my playing. He liked my playing, and he liked traditional Western swing, and I love traditional Western swing. And so when there was an opportunity for them to record that, he would call me in, and I'm so grateful for that. That eventually is what led me into the Willie Nelson gig that I've been in for 8 years now, playing with Willie Nelson. So being out there and just playing and playing and playing, and being fortunate enough to have somebody in maybe a little higher position say, I like this guy, he's good. We'll keep an eye on him and see if we can utilize him in some way.
Yeah, it's all about playing and meeting people. And are there any things that you would recommend for? Actually, like before that, I wanted to, since we talked about your major gigs, I'm not sure if everyone is familiar, but you've been playing with Brian Setzer Orchestra in the 90s, I believe, late 90s.
Very
you played with Dwight Yoakam for a few years. Your bands are Hey Bell and High Noon, that I highly recommend. Yeah, I cannot recommend High Noon more than I don't know. Like, I don't know what else would I recommend in the rockabilly world that much. And uh, and now you're with Willie Nelson. That's like pretty amazing for 12 years, 13 years. For how long?
I've been with him for 8 years.
Oh, 8 years.
So,
Oh, okay. I thought it
yeah,
was
yeah,
that. Oh, yeah, yeah. You told me it was 2012. So that's maybe the
yeah,
reason why I remember. Oh, 12, maybe 12 years.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I would be
Uh,
curious to hear what do they think about Slap, especially Dwight and Willie.
I tend not to ask. You know, it's like it's the kind of thing that can be overused, and it can be kind of cartoonish. And I just, as far as what I play when I'm working with guys like that, I really try to play to the song and to the arrangement. And if I can slip a little slap in there, and it's something that adds a little emphasis to a beat or something, and it sounds good and it feels good. That's what I want to do. I try to do that kind of stuff. I try to get just add a little bit of something, but I don't want to do it all the time because it can be overbearing when you've got somebody like Willie Nelson up there who's, he's singing a Willie Nelson song, for God's sake. I don't want to step all over what he's doing. He's an
Yeah,
American
if you
master. I
step on
wouldn't dream of.
someone's toes like that, that's the best way to uh, to lose the gig, right?
Well, yeah. It's not to me, and I don't really think about that way, but I really think that it may not sound that good. It's just not. It's not going to add anything. And there are little times where maybe I'll slip in a little triplet, a little emphasis, and it's to me that doing something like that is almost like somebody hitting a kick drum. It's just a nice little push. So I'll sneak stuff like that in occasionally. Uh, but there's if there isn't a reason to do it, I don't want to do it because I don't want to attract unnecessary attention away from the song or away from the singer. So that's kind of those are kind of the rules I use. There I am.
There you are. I'm playing a little Willie Nelson video. I'm not playing it too loud. All right, there you were slapping for a little bit there.
Yeah, at the end of the show, we're doing the big slap medley, and I mean not the slap medley, the gospel medley, and Willie's leaving the stage, so that's a great point for me to get on there and throw some slap stuff out there.
Sure.
Yeah,
All right. What about Dwight? What was his? Were you using any slap with Dwight?
there was a little slap feature that we did, and it was just a brief little thing. It was part of the arrangements for one of the songs. He would give me a little slap feature. And that was about that was about it. Uh, the bass tone when I was playing with him, I was using his gear, and the bass tone was really bright. So when I did slap, it was just a little too it was a little too crisp, so it didn't really sound that good. So other than that little slap feature thing that he would give me, I didn't. I tried to stay away from slapping with him because it just didn't sound good in that
He had
context.
you mentioned that he had like a kind of like a particular way of he wanted you to have a particular setup, right?
Yeah, yeah. He had very specific ideas of what he wanted and the way it was overall going to sound and the look on the stage. I think to him that he's very film oriented and very visually oriented. So I think that the for him it was this basically a 3 act film the way the show went down. Um, so the sound and the look, he was very very into creating that, and obviously very successful at it. And it was such a great band. The band that we were playing with at the time it was really fantastic, and it was that was an amazing experience. I got some
Oh, I
great
bet.
suits. He
How
bought me a
about
couple of cool suits.
Brian Setzer? I got like quite a few comments um, when I posted that I'm going to interview you, and that people are usually not aware that you played with Brian. You played with Brian Setzer Orchestra in the late 90s. What is 99? Was it like Vavoom years, or
It
when was
was
that?
no, it was the end of the Dirty Boogie tour. I think that was probably like a 2 year tour, and something had happened with his bass player. His bass player wasn't able to do a couple weeks of the tour, and prior to that, I had been out with a band that I played with called 8.5 Souvenirs, and we opened for the Brian Setzer Orchestra for about 6 weeks. And of course, Mark Winchester was playing the gig, and he sounded great. So pretty much every night I watched that show, and just it was fantastic. I loved watching it. And so when Mark was unable to do some of the gigs, he called me, and Brian Setzer called me and said, "Hey, would you want to, would you be interested in filling in for the rest of the tour?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So they called me on a Sunday, and I flew out on Tuesday and met with Brian and kind of ran over some of the material. And like I said, I watched the show almost every night for 6 weeks, so I had it pretty ingrained in what needed to be there. I knew what needed to be there, and we started the tour the next night, and I did about 2 weeks with them, and we did 2 sold-out nights at Caesar's Palace, which was amazing to be playing Caesar's Palace with a 15-piece band. It was great. That was really, really fun. Great experience.
So I'm playing a little bit of Asylum Street Spankers in the back. I just
Yeah.
started Instagram Live, so whoever see me here, like the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm interviewing one of my heroes, one of my like bass player friends and excellent and amazing bass player, Kevin Smith. So you should go to my YouTube. The link is in my bio of the Instagram, and check it out. So there's no point just like watching me talking like this. You have to see Kevin play and Kevin talk. So go to my YouTube, go to Bullfill Cat, subscribe, and you guys should subscribe too. And check out Kevin and the Slapstream with Djordje that I'm doing right now. So YouTube, link in my bio. I'll stop the Instagram Live, and I'll be back here. So as you mentioned, Mark Winchester was playing at that time. By my opinion, he was kind of the guy. I really loved like how Setzer Orchestra sounded when Mark was with them. That was kind of like a gold period for Setzer Orchestra.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I'm sure that lots of people would like to hear something about High Noon. That's
Okay.
one of my favorite rockabilly bands. And how did you guys start? How did you develop? Like I knew you mentioned that you had to develop the style because of the there was no drums, so you had to play a lot. Is that the time when you did that drag triplet, or whatever you want to call it, roll slap, or is
Yeah.
that a time that have you heard that somewhere, or
Not
is it
really.
just like
I mean, at
your
that time,
inspiration?
I didn't really know what I was doing, and I wasn't really trying to uh, emulate anybody other than maybe some Bill Black on the Sun Sessions, which is what initially inspired High Noon the most. Was we had all played in other bands with drummers and electric bass, and I think the sound that we were all really drawn to was that acoustic trio with no drums. Um, so when we started doing that, like I said, it was like boot camp. We played all the time. So as I was playing a 4 hour show and got my stamina up to where it was something that was comfortable, then I started messing around with different feels and kind of learned how to play the rumba beat a little bit. And the drag triplet kind of came out of playing a 2 beat way too fast, and the way I describe a drag triplet or that kind of triplet is the note and the 2 slaps after it all have the same time value. Whereas with a let me just grab my bass. This is just gonna take a second.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So if you're, I was doing a lot of that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly.
As I got to play where I was playing faster, as I started doing that stuff faster, that I noticed that triplet just kind of came out. So as I heard that triplet in there, I thought, well, if I could take that outside of that context and put it into a boogie or whatever. So what I'm doing, kind of reaching out, hitting with the back of my palm, grabbing the string, which makes another click, and then letting it go. And I should say one thing
don't leave the bass. Don't leave the bass. I want you to play a little bit. Do you mind playing something from the High Noon repertoire, like maybe like a Blue Bonnet boogie solo? That's one that I really like. And I want to ask you something after you play.
I'm a little out of shape, but this is so this is basically what I did. And this is an example. There's one lick in here that I just kind of stumbled on trying to make something else happen, and it just kind of came out that way. So here we go.
Oh man, that's great. I always wanted to learn that little lick that you play. I think that song is in G, right?
Yes. And
so there's that lick that you're playing after. All right, sorry guys, I'm gonna use this opportunity to learn something, and there's gonna be a part of the slap stream that's gonna be a slap lesson with Kevin now. So maybe you should grab your basses as well. So because I'm gonna ask questions to Kevin so that I can finally learn the lick that I always wanted to know, but I never did. So do you know the one that I'm talking about? I believe if the song is in C, I know it starts on 4. So I know that the song is, if the song is in 4, the lick should be in C, because I remember that it's kind of like that. It starts on 4, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm walking up to the 4 chord. Slow. Let me see here. So that's the lick, right?
Yeah, that's the one. So what are the notes? Or that's over C6 or?
Yeah, that would be C, and the note is on the A.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, let me try it.
Yeah.
Don't make fun of me. I would like to hear and see in the comments if you guys hear basses, both of our basses fine. I think this is, nobody was complaining so far, so I hope you guys can see it. All right, I'm ready. So the song is in G. This is the lick is in C, and the notes are C, A, G, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing kind of like a drag and then a roll slap and then a triplet or quadruple after that?
I think I was trying to do like a kind of a Willie Dixon quadruplet thing, but I couldn't really figure it out. And I just kind of went for it, and this kind of happened. So, so that's it.
All right, so and then the drag is on the roll slap is on the A, and then all right, I'll try with quadruple. Okay, I see it and I remember the solo. So let's do it. Something like that, or I'm playing like one extra slap.
You're actually working an extra slap in there.
Oh, okay. So then you got to be a triplet after that. Is that it?
That's exactly it. You knew that all.
Okay. I'm sure it sounds a little bit different on the steel strings. You play guts, right?
Yes, I do. On this bass, but like when I'm out on tour with Willie, I use steel because I need those nice long sustained notes. So
the same for Dwight, right? Dwight insisted on steel strings, right?
Yeah. He didn't. Gut was just a little too warm sounding. I think it was. It just didn't fit the sound aesthetic that he liked. You know.
Great. All right. So I think that everybody's happy so far. If you're not happy, slap back in the comments. And one thing that I wanted to ask you, there's like lots of confusion, and I talked to pretty much everyone, like especially Ryan Gold, and it's like some people call it single slap, some double slap, triple slap, whatever. And I'm not crazy about like you have to do it one way or another, but it helps. I went to music school, like classical music school. It really helps, especially for the beginners, because you know, like, all right, so this is what you're supposed to learn. So you don't have to call it a certain way, but so it has to have some kind of terminology. And what always bugged me was that people, and I think it's mostly outside of rockabilly world, they would call this snap and not slap, and then single slap would be for them this, and then and double would be this. So in that case, they would be counting just those slaps of the on the fingerboard without a note. My way of thinking was always that it should be counting the note, because the note is producing the back slap as well. And then so you basically count the back slap and the slaps of the palm, which kind of musically and rhythmically makes more sense, at least for me. I'm curious to hear your opinion. And it's so, because for me, this is single slap and this is double, and this is already triple slap, because you have three. It could be gallop, but it's a triple, and this would be a triplet, which is the same kind of like, we still have three and one note, and then two slaps, so which would make sense, like, to be called a triple slap or triplet if we wanted to be use like these little sub categories. And which always kind of like was crazy for me, like, like nobody calls like this. Nobody says like, oh, he's snapping the bass. No, everybody says like he's slapping the bass. So I'm curious to hear your opinion about it.
Well, okay, so I mean, with like traditional jazz, and that's, talk to Ryan Gould and he will show you how to play that with better feel. But I mean, I would consider that single slap because that snap is in there, and I've never heard it called snap before. But that's one, right? So, and I think that if you got to where, and I know maybe Ryan Gould and possibly Adam Booker and some other people have worked on actually notating slap. I think that that would be the way to differentiate, because if you're hitting a quarter note with 2 eighth notes in between, which would be kind of a Johnny Cash feel, right? So I would call that a double slap, because the slap is the 2 eighth notes in between the quarter notes. But if you were to write a triplet, it would would make sense to have the note and the two slaps each have equal value. So I think it would be written as a triplet, you know? So maybe, you know, I'm sure that there's somebody that's notated it, and I don't really worry about all that too much because I barely read music at all, you know.
Yeah, it's more important to play than it's important how you groove, not like if you have the correct nomenclature. It's like, for me, it was always like, you know, double has to be 2, triple has to be 3, and then that way it kind of like makes sense. But you know, I totally think that everybody should have their own opinion. You know, everybody who knows and who spends time analyzing. Adam Booker did an article maybe 10 years ago or so about it, and we published it on the Art of Slap Bass as well. So you can check it out and, you know, give us your opinion. While you're having a bass, like, and I'll leave mine, I would be curious to hear, do you have any advice for beginner basses or intermediate, even advanced? You know, like, what were your any advice as far as playing goes, and common mistakes that you were maybe doing, and it would help you out if you knew, all right, I shouldn't do this way, or I should do it that way, or whatever, you know, like, so basically advice and common mistakes for other bass players.
Yeah. The one thing that I found universally that every student I come across just about, when they start playing, they're kind of hunched over and they're leaning over, which is going to put a lot of stress on your shoulder and on the outside of your arm. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to have the energy or the stamina to sustain that very long, and you can hurt your shoulders. So the one thing that I tell every single person, and I have to remind them through every single lesson, is that you're stand up straight with your shoulders back a little bit, nice and relaxed. That's another thing. A lot of people are pulling and then pushing their hand back into the fingerboard, and you don't want that. You want to be able to snap it and just let your hand naturally fall back to the fingerboard. Gravity will take care of that, so you don't have to push it. And that way, the returning energy is easy. Turn this way. Again, these movements are really exaggerated to show what they should feel like. All this is really, really loose. So you can see it. I'm going to step in a little bit closer here and show you this, how loose the wrist should really be when you're doing that kind of stuff. You'll see my hand is going way, way out. So I'm kind of launching off the spring of the string. So you can see my fingers are going way, way over here, and that's because everything is nice and relaxed. So, you know, you're doing it nice and slow. The circle is kind of big. To speed it up, all you have to do is just concentrate the energy a little bit and make that circle just a little bit smaller. So that really doesn't take any more energy, and I'm not tightening my shoulder. Everything is nice and relaxed. I have the bass leaning into me just a little bit. My left leg put against the lower bout of the bass, so the bass almost holds itself up. So yeah, those are two things. Wrist and everything really. Your jaw should be relaxed, shoulders back, nice big deep breaths, all that kind of stuff. Those are all things that I tell just about every single person I give a lesson to. I have to remind them, okay, a lot of them, you know, a classical position would be like this with the bass leaning back, and you can slap like this, you're not going to be able to do it very long. So if you want to play the kind of style that I would play, the bass needs to be a little more upright, shoulders back, nice and relaxed, good deep breaths, jaw relaxed, everything. So those are the main things.
Yeah, it's all about being relaxed. You don't want to have like any health issues because of playing bass. Yeah. We already have enough problems because we play bass in our lives, so we don't need that. Like we have a question from James, which is, when doing triplets or tremble beats, does your arm naturally make a circular motion?
So like triplets like this, I'm guessing that's what he means. See, now when Mark Rubin and I did an instructional video, we talked about doing the circles like this. And which does work, but as I've gone on to teach more, it's a lot of wasted energy, the way I see it. So I don't know if it's the best way to explain this, but you know, it's like playing with a bow. When you're playing with a bow, you're not supposed to push and pull down, really. You're supposed to let gravity kind of do it itself. The gravity of your arm will pull the bow. And it's the same with this. So I'm launching, grabbing it, and as I'm doing this, kind of springing off that string, letting this part of my hand hit it as it's coming back. And then when you grab the string, that's another click. So it is a circle, but it's more like this than like this. Yeah, if you can.
I think that the general rule should be, like, as long as you're relaxed, you don't have, you're not pushing yourself. I mean, you should push yourself a little bit, but as long as you're relaxed and you have you feel fine doing it, you should kind of like find your own style. For me, as far as right hand goes, was always like, let's try to make as less motion as possible, especially because if you're doing long gigs, you don't want to do, I mean, if you want to do this like for the show, like a whole Marshall Idol thing, but if you're doing it just like for the sake of the sound and the groove, which is the priority, I mean, at least it should be. I think my thing was always, let's be relaxed and let's have as less motion as possible, because, you know, like, let's not put any pressure on your arm and wrist and all of these things. And I think that I got that like from classical playing with the bow, like when you practice, you know, I remember now that I had a professor back in Serbia who was insisting that I practice open bow exercises with the for like 2 hours every day, which I did like for a couple of years. And, you know, all my neighbors hated me, but it was helpful. And then I applied that like for slap, you know, like I wanted to be as relaxed as possible. I have a question. No, I mean, Gabriel have a question, and this might not be a question, it might be a statement. Gabriel says that the A in your first position in G string should be at your eyebrow. So what is your thing? How high is that, like a kind of reference that you're doing?
Not really. I kind of do what feels best. When I'm playing where I'm not slapping a lot, I tend to have the bass a little bit lower than this. When I'm slapping a lot, I keep the bass up high because, you know, I'm slapping in this area generally. If the bass is lower, I'm trying to slap up here and the strings are closer together and the action's a little bit lower. So that doesn't work. So I put the bass up higher. It's higher, and what I'm kind of trying to do is keeping my forearm perpendicular so that kind of motion. When you do it down here like this, it feels weird on my shoulder. And there are guys that play like that. I think Joe Zinkin kind of had that lower arm.
Yeah, he was one of the best. If you guys are not familiar
Personal
with him, make
preference
sure
for
to
me is
check him out. Kent is the expert in on Joe's Inc. He has some amazing videos on his YouTube. Go check it out. So more John Stansel says end pin should be high if you're slapping. Do you agree with that? Or like I think that depends on how high you are, how tall you are.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe high you are as well.
Yeah, it's like I said, I like to have my arm kind of perpendicular to the strings. And for me, yeah, the peg is out really high. I mean, I'm 6 feet tall here, and this is probably 12, 14 inches above at least.
Wow.
So it's really tall. But that's when I'm slapping, I like to have that. I think I have a little more power. And if the bass is lower, I find myself when if the bass is lower and I'm trying to do something that takes a lot of energy, I catch myself leaning way in to get my arm to be kind of perpendicular if the bass is low, so then I'm trying to compensate with my body. So it's just easier to keep it up high.
Sure, again, that makes sense. I mean, I think that everybody should figure out their own thing, and then have the just keep in mind like to be relaxed and like it has to sound and feel as natural as possible. All right, we have a question from Joe Wilson here. Kevin, do you have a go-to right hand exercise to warm up?
Not really. No, not really. I'll just, I'll try to do some stretching, try to stretch my hands out a little bit. Just be relaxed. That's the main thing. I'm not generally starting a gig where I come out and I'm immediately hammering it anymore. With Ronnie Dawson, we kind of did that. And it was that was just all adrenaline. There wasn't any warming up. By the time Lisa counted off a song, we were all warmed up. We were ready to go. So I don't really do a whole lot of warming up. But like I said, I'm using gut strings, have a lot of give to them. So it's kind of cushy. It's not like, I think steel strings are a little bit harder to, maybe you should warm up a little bit more on steel strings. I should ask you. But I don't really tend to warm up much.
I'm the worst as far as that stuff goes. I'm going like from one state of mind completely to a different one. When I was playing gigs in sets, which was years ago, if it was nothing happening interesting, if it was nothing interesting going on, I could literally sleep like until like 2 minutes before I go to show, wake up, play a show, go in a like in backstage, like in between sets, sleep for another 15 minutes, go full on energy show, and then party or whatever after that. Or I could go like if something interesting is going, I don't want to sleep. I go like, let's go to farmers market, let's party with the locals, let's do this, let's do that. So I don't want to give advice on that, So you should warm up and meditate or whatever, check out what Flea is doing. The whole Red Hot Chili Peppers thing. I think they have like a thing, but before they go to show, they go in the mode, and then that could be the right thing. It was never my thing, so I never did it. All right, so we have a question from Branson. It's for you. I believe it's for you. Do you ever work on arco playing?
I do a little bit. I like running scales with arco because running scales with a bow is so unforgiving. You'll find out how good your intonation is really fast when you're playing with a bow, and it also it's such a different discipline that I think it puts you in a different headspace, and I enjoy it, and I should do it more. But yeah, I do. I like playing with a bow.
For me, there was only the pretty much. I believe this question was for you, but I will answer. Maybe it was for me as well. If I practice, I pretty much practice only arco. I never practice slap. Never practice. If I want to learn a song or something, yes. But if I don't, then it's scales with the bow or etudes with the bow. And I believe the only way how you can build strong intonation, and it's with the bow. So I would recommend to everyone, if you play, I don't care what kind of music you play. If you play, horror Billy without any intonation, get like a couple lessons from classical player in town, and and learn where those notes are, because so many of us are guilty. I mean, I might have been like that, like when I was a kid as well. I was so excited about slap, so I just wanted to slap and slap and slap. But that's what I did like whole day, every day. And intonation was kind of like, all right, I mean, those notes are somewhere over there. As long as I'm slapping and have the energy, it's cool. But it's not. Nobody gonna hire you because you have good slap. They will hire you if you have good slap and good intonation. But if you just have good slap, no gig for you. Like none. I mean, none, no good gigs. And I think that's something that everybody should try to improve and work on all the time. I think we have more questions. All right. Yeah, I forgot to mention Ronnie Dawson. Which was your favorite Ronnie Dawson tune? I assume one of the tunes that you played with him.
Yeah, Ronnie was so important to me. Before I met him, before I moved to Texas, I went to a record store and found that first reissue on No Hit Records of a bunch of his singles, and I was instantly connected to it. I was like, man, this is great rockabilly, but it's really heavily blues influenced. Nobody sounded like that stuff. So when I moved down to Austin, and we got High Noon going, and we eventually met Ronnie, and then we got to play with them, it was just as good as I think I've ever played. I think that the bands that we played with Ronnie were some of the best music I've ever made. But Ronnie would do songs that had one chord, and you just sit there and just vamp on one chord, and it was so much fun, and it'd be so heavy, just. And we'd do that for 5 minutes.
Yeah, he was great. That must have been great experience, especially you played Carnegie Hall with him, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. I played in SVT at Carnegie Hall.
Wow,
it was silly.
I wish I'd been like on so many of your gigs. It's like, so was it packed hall? Like were people were rockabilly's there, or like
it was a lot of season ticket holders. What it was. Yeah, it was almost impossible to get tickets to, because they have I believe they have a strong art scene there, and it was a lot of season ticket holders basically. So,
okay. So it was not like a regular audience that would come to see Ronnie on the tour.
You could tell I think we could tell the sound guys were a little bit freaked out when we came in with the SVT and a full drum kit, and we played hard. There's no way of getting around that. So I'm sure we kind of overpowered the room. But we did what we did.
It was pretty much Ronnie plus High Noon plus Lisa, right? Lisa Pankratz.
Yes, Lisa
right?
Pankratz. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so because he never wanted to do like regular High Noon, like with no drums. He wanted to have more rock and roll or rock sound. Like is that like the thing? He wanted to be more powerful, or what was the thing?
Yeah, with Ronnie, he really wanted a drummer. If you listen to his later records, they're really heavy rhythmically. I mean, that's some pretty heavy, very groovy, hard-hitting stuff. And I think it sounds better with the drummer. It's much more powerful.
All right.
And,
while you're still holding your bass, I have one more question. I mean, maybe other guys have like tons more questions, but I kind of wanted to wrap this up around 1 hour, but I'm noticing that there's like more and more and more people showing up. So I guess people enjoy it. So I should, like we'll continue until maybe a little bit more until you tell us to stop. Okay, so let me see. All right, so the one thing that I wanted to ask you, and I remember that was the thing that you told me when like one of the first times I saw you, was that you're kind of like not holding your hand when you do those triplets. Um, you're you're kind of like doing like this, right?
Yeah,
A little bit.
I generally use three fingers to pull with, and I just to get more power, just to play louder. Like when I first started, I just you know I wanted to be able to play as hard as I possibly could, so that I had a full range of hitting it nice and light to hitting that loud and playing that loud. And since I don't slap that much, if I have a high noon gig to play, I'll spend 3 or 4 days on a steel string bass, just pulling as hard as I possibly can and kind of forcing myself into getting blisters, and then draining the blisters to build up the good calluses. And then once I get those calluses, then I can go into and start practicing the high noon material to get it to where I have the stamina and the calluses to do the gig.
You told me that you have to do that kind of like every time when you play with high noon, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
you probably don't have like to have those like preparations for other gigs that you do.
No.
Okay. Well, high noon is special. I mean, like if you guys don't
Yeah.
know high noon, you have to go right after this
Yeah.
and
I
check
got to
out.
say one thing
It's just
too about high
amazing.
noon is that we have a 45 out. We just released a brand new 45,
Is it out
and
yet?
it is out, and it's on Swell Tune Records out of Boston, Massachusetts, and it's our first recording in 19 years. And we recorded it in Sean Young's studio, and it's so funny because we get together with High Noon to play, and it's like falling off a log because we did it so much, and there's tiny little rhythmic things that we developed over playing so much for 10 or 15 years that still just naturally happen. Is that that's always going to be my first real band. That was the band that I really cut my teeth on, and that we all three did, I think. So whenever we all three get together to play, it's always very special. And there's about 300 inside jokes and little rhythmic things that we do that nobody else would ever get. It's a pretty special bond with those guys, and it's always kind of a gift to get to play with them. And the new 45 sounds so good, and I think it sounds like High Noon, and I think it's also a little bit different than anything we've ever done. So I'm really proud of it, and I'll always be grateful for High Noon. Really, that was the most important gig I've ever had, for sure.
I bet. I mean, if if I was the one, and I'm not the one, but I was the one that to choose what would be something that the represent you the best. It will definitely be High Noon. It would probably be Stranger Things, the album. But I like another thing. Like I like how was the what was the name of the album after that? That came out like 10 years later or something.
Maybe What Are You Waiting For? I think.
Yes, that's another album that
Yeah.
like I don't hear like many people talk about it, but I thought that album was great. I really really loved it.
It was. I think it would have been tough to beat Stranger Things, with anything. There's just,
Stranger
Stranger
Things
Things was
is a
such a
masterpiece for sure.
quintessential record, and that was on the tail end of us touring for many, many years.
Oh,
But I think that with again with What Are You Waiting For? There was stuff that I did on that record that I had never really done before on different High Noon records or recorded with anybody. There was little things that I threw in that make it unique, and that's one of the things that about High Noon that is essential to me, and that I appreciate the most, is that I have these opportunities to do something that's just a little bit different, so I'm not repeating myself, and I'm not playing the same 4/4 groove all the time. It's not like, oh, this is a shuffle, this is a two beat, and we have two different feels. While we do both of those things a lot, there are little things that I get to do that make it sound a little bit different, and I think that's important. It helps keeps you fresh, and it kind of forces you to look at something a little bit differently and try something a little bit new.
I think it's like one of the things, especially in rockabilly, it's important to sound fresh. Are you going to make it modern or vintage, whatever? But it has to have that kind of excitement. If it loses the excitement just for the sake um, to copy the 50s, it's just like it doesn't work. It doesn't grab you. Or it goes the same way, like for the guys that want to do the modern style. And just because you're loud, doesn't mean that you're exciting, So High Noon kept that for me like always, and I'm excited about the new 45 and Swell Tune. They're doing a great job, and like with the festival, and then shout out to Beck Rustic. I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name, but when I see her on Facebook, I feel that it's kind of like the last name from my neck of the woods, but it might not be. It might be Rustic. So she's doing a great job with New England Shake Up Festival as well, which unfortunately it won't happen this year, but it will next year. I'm excited about a 45. So is the 45 out yet? If people want to go to the Swell Tune website, they can get it?
Yes. Go to Swell Tune Records and get the 45. Like I said, I'm very proud of it. I think it's a little bit different than stuff that we've ever done. I'm very, very proud of it. I think it sounds great. And I'm also, Beck Rustic does such a great job and has such a pure heart for what she's doing. She does all the things that she does, and she does a lot. She does all of that with a pure and true love for the music. So we're grateful to have an opportunity to work with somebody like her. Absolutely.
Yeah, not many people realize how much work it is, like, to put out a festival, to put out anything rockabilly or slap related. I mean, just this little thing that I'm doing. I haven't slept for the last 3 days. I'm like, oh, I have to do this and this and this. I think it's working out really fine, and I would really appreciate if you guys like subscribe and like that. For some reason, YouTube like those things, so slap that like button and double slap the subscribe button, which means you should subscribe and you should ask your friends to subscribe. It's going to make my life easier. And when I see that there's like hundreds of people watching or thousands of people watching, if you think if this inspires you, if this is high quality content that you like watching and then enjoy watching, please double slap to subscribe and slap back in the comments. So I prepared a few things. I don't want anyone to miss any point. Like, so it's live from Slapsville, Slapstream.
Stuff, I want to say that I've been getting together with a group of bass players in Austin for the past 20 years. We get together once a week, and it's called the Austin Bass Hang. And we've done so much. We've done these forever, and we've recently been doing it on Zoom for obvious reasons. And last week we did a slap bass summit, and it was myself and Bo Sample and just a bunch of great bass players, Ryan Gould. And so we've started a YouTube channel, and I think that was over 2 hours. I think it was 2.5 hours last week. And we've got that all on the Austin Bass Hang, Austin Bass Hang YouTube channel.
Oh, is it on yet already?
It is, yeah.
Oh, it's great. That was it was really, really pleasure to be with all you guys there. It was amazing. Like, it really inspiring. And like, actually lots of people that subscribe to this like told me that they watched the summit as well. So if you haven't seen the summit, go to Austin Bass Hang YouTube, check out the summit, like, subscribe as well. YouTube likes that. I will let you. I don't know. Is there anything else that you wanted to do with your bass? Or I don't want you to hold your bass for an hour.
No, we could put it down. I think I've done.
All right, so let's do that. While Kevin is putting his bass down, I'm curious to see where you guys are from. So please write that down in the comments. That kind of helps me out realizing what time is this a good time to put out the slap stream. I'll definitely continue doing this. I just wonder, I kind of picked the time where it's like good for, okay, Stefan is from UK, so that's 7 p.m. UK, so I feel it works fine. For US, I think it's great. It covers, from 11 to 3 or so, and then you can even see it in Istanbul or whatever. That's like 9 p.m. or Greece, and so I think it's a good time. But I would be curious to see where you guys are from, where you're watching us, and is this a good time for you? Like, so is this, you would prefer? I mean, we obviously cannot accommodate hundreds of requests, but it would be cool to know and have the idea of that. And if we should continue doing this, as I said, like, please subscribe, like, and if you feel like donating, I put out like a couple links under this video, which are PayPal and Venmo, which will help us going and continue doing this. And there's also Patreon sites that just started messing around with it. So it'll be live in about a day or so. So check it out later on. All right, Kevin is back. Let me put him back on the screen. Let me see. Like, there were like quite a few questions that I missed. All right, you guys are all over the place. That's awesome. Jack O'Rooney asked like for the link for the bass for the Austin Bass Hang YouTube, so you can actually post it here for the comments if you don't mind, Kevin, and then I will highlight it so that people can actually copy that.
I don't have the link yet. They just got it up, but maybe I'm hoping that Ryan or Josh or maybe Gary or somebody like that out there has the link and they can put it up.
All right. So if any of you Austin Bass Hang guys are watching this, please post the comment here on YouTube, and then I will highlight it so that people can actually see it. Oh, Mark, that's great. He said, like, what a great public service. Such a great talk with a swell fellow. Thank you, Mark. Oh, I really want to have Mark as well on the Slapstream. So we'll see. Let me. Oh, so Nuna Silva, question: any advice for tendinitis? Sorry, this goes for both of you. I was never really good like in pronouncing this word. I'm still a foreigner, so forget about that. But like, your advice.
One of the things that I always tell people that I give lessons to, and one of the things I've always tried to do is don't play past the point of pain. If blisters are gonna hurt, you're gonna get a little sore and tired. That's fine, but when something really feels like it's gonna be like it's wrong, you can't keep doing it. You have to stop. So it's important that you move slowly, and it's important that you build strength slowly. Like I said, before I do high noon gigs, I have to build up the calluses so I don't shred my hands. So you have to take it as slow as you need to and try not to hurt yourself. I've been fortunate that I've never really had tendinitis, but there have been times where I've been sore enough to where there was one time where I had something happening in my right hand and we had to hire a drummer for a couple weeks. And as I figured out what was causing that, I had some weird right hand position stuff going on. As I figured out how to get around that, I haven't had any trouble since then. I've been very fortunate.
Another question from, I haven't answered. So for me, it would be try to be as relaxed as possible. That would be one advice that I would give. It's just that's going to help with anything. It's kind of hard like to control yourself when you're a kid and you want to learn everything, want to practice all the time, and your fingers are bleeding, all of that. So I think it's as long as you're relaxed, it's gonna work out fine, so you shouldn't have the problems. But I never had, but us bass players are not, the most famous people for giving, health advice. so ask a professional, or ask Ryan Gold. He actually spent, like, some time researching all these things. So he would be a better one to answer. I'm not. When I was started, I just wanted to play. I started playing with these two fingers, and I still mostly play with these two fingers. And then when they started bleeding, I started playing with these two. And then at one point, I forced myself, like, to learn to slap with each finger. And at one point they were like all all bloody, so I couldn't play. But I wanted to prove something to myself. But I was 12 or 13, so don't listen to my advice. Another question for you, Kevin. I understand it's from KC Shalala. I understand the dot on your fingerboard for your thumb position, but could you explain the other dot lower down your fingerboard? I assume lower, like a lower notes, kind of higher in the fingerboard, but lower notes. I haven't really seen the dots, but
well, I'll show you. It's I've had this modification done. There you go. You can see them. They're just intonation markers. There are some times where I'm playing and everything is so loud, including myself, that I can't really hear the intonation, and I want to try to make sure that I'm in playing as in tune as possible. So I put some marks on there so that I can, whether I can hear myself or not, that I know that I'm in the neighborhood.
But are those permanent markers, or how are they?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I had a luthier install them.
Yeah. I was always a little afraid of that because, I noticed that as soon as you move the bridge, that intonation, it's off. So I never wanted to do those markers, and then I never did. And maybe I should have. I don't know. But like for me, I noticed that as soon as you change your setup, those markers are a little off.
That's absolutely true. If I had to do it over, I probably would not have those in there.
Sure. Question from James Doken. How do you complement upright bass with drums on snare or bass kicks? I think both, but go ahead.
Wow, I guess it depends on the music. If I'm playing traditional country and playing a shuffle, I try to lock in with the kick drum. Generally, as a drummer is playing a shuffle, if you listen to what they're doing, you'll find the spot where the bass goes. You'll find this little sweet spot where the bass note will actually be heard, and you're playing just in between maybe the hi-hat and the kick drum and the snare. So that's, I don't listen specifically to the snare or the kick. I try to hear everything all together and find where that note is going to have the right impact for the groove that I'm looking for. It's all about finding the right groove.
I would say the same. It really depends on the style. If it's more something pop in a way, like it's produced, it's usually bass drum, by my experience, that kind of like producers want to really tighten up the bass and bass drum with bass, and then when you're working out the arrangements, especially if you're playing in kind of like a more modern band, it's those two should be, by my experience, very locked in. One question that I'm sure lots of people ask you, it's not slap related, but I kind of wanted to ask you. It's from James Doken. He asked you, how often do you get mixed up with Kevin Smith, the director? And I was actually thinking about that when I asked the designer of Art of Slap Bass, and I want to give him huge shout out to Fernando Slap from Buenos Aires, who did all the graphics, and I'm really excited about it. He's a bass player. He plays with the band Motorama, and he plays with Molotov. when I'm not playing. I met him. His band Motorama opened up for Tiger Army when I was in Buenos Aires a few years ago, and ever since we became friends. And this is, thank you, Fernando. He's a great guy. I love you, man. So, question for you, like Kevin Smith, the director. When I was doing these graphics with Fernando, I wanted to put down like your URL so that people that's there, okay, so that people can actually follow you. But you're using a different URL every time. And then when I Googled you and when I put your name in any social media, it's like, all right, you're Ideal Cooler on Twitter, you're K Smith based on Instagram, you're text based on Facebook. So it will be interesting to hear, like, I think that you also mentioned, like, when you were trying to get a URL for your website, that it was kind of like what should I get?
Yeah, there's a lot of Kevin Smiths out there. So I actually did. I got a letter. Austin has a very great film society. There's a very great movie scene here in Austin. They shoot a lot of movies, and they have a little film. The South by Southwest Film Festival is great, and I joined the film society quite a few years ago. It's like, yeah, we got to join because they were bringing in these great documentaries. So we joined, and I got a letter back from them saying, "We're so grateful to have you, and we're really excited that you're a part of the Austin Film Society. And if there's ever anything we can do for you, we'd be glad to." And so they obviously thought that I was the other Kevin Smith.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Were you able to get any benefits from that?
No, I should have pushed a little bit harder. I should have wrote back right away and said, I could get I could use some free passes to the film festival would be great.
That's awesome. Let me check out if there are like any other questions. Lord AM asked, is an expensive bow necessary in order to practice? No, nothing expensive is mandatory for practicing. I think like we covered all these questions. Sorry guys, this is like a first time for me doing the live stream, so I just got this fancy live stream so that like all of you can actually see it and watch it on YouTube. I was debating between, like, there's so many platforms out there, and I'm glad I chose this one. Oh, okay. So Casey, let me just like move this. And Casey said, I meant the dot on the front of your fingerboard. She did not mean the back.
Oh yeah, that's I've got octave. Whoops, there you can see it. So there's the octave, and then this one is fifth position. So that's the other one. So there's one for 12th position, one for fifth.
Okay, so you have a question from Steve. What do you find best for you to monitor on stage?
I use an amplifier, always. I use right now with when I'm on tour with Willie Nelson, I use an Ampeg V4B, which is similar to an SVT circuit. It's a huge amplifier with like 600 watts, but I definitely don't need 600 watts with Willie Nelson. So this is about 100 watts with a 410 cabinet, and it sounds great. I love the Ampeg sound. I really love the Ampeg sound. When I'm at home, I use an Eden 410 cabinet with a Gallion-Kruger 800 RB head. And I've had that cabinet and that amplifier, the head, for probably 25 years. And every 7 or 8 years, I take the Gallion-Kruger in to have screws tightened up and make sure everything is good. The cabinet, I've never had anything go wrong with it, and I've just play and play and play. And I don't use any preamps when I'm at home and I'm playing clubs. I can plug straight in with the electric bass or straight in with the upright, and they both sound great. when I'm out on tour, we're playing such big rooms. I use preamps with both the electric and the upright so that I can get a little more present sound, because when I'm playing in nightclubs, I'm using the amplifier and I'm bouncing the sound off the walls that are around me and the wall behind me. And when we're doing these big shows with Willie, there is no wall behind me, so it tends to just disappear. Um, Especially when you're standing right in front of the amp, the sound gets thrown pretty far away. So I like to use preamps when I'm on tour just to make the sound a little bit more immediate.
That's great. It's important to have your own sound, your own amp, and once you find your amp, you kind of stick to it. I've been playing Ampex before, and then I switched to Orange, and like 5 or 6 years ago, and I've been
Yeah.
playing Orange like ever since, and I absolutely love them. Um, oh, one interesting trick from Jason Hoyt: playing with the pillow under my armpit forced me to play more gently from the wrist and really solved some of my tendinitis issues. Interesting. I never tried it. It might be helpful for for somebody. Let's
Huh.
see. All right. Oh, Stefan, can you recommend any jump blues bassist? I love the bass sound in Wynoni Harry's tracks, but don't know of any players to check out.
Geez, I don't know a whole lot about jump blues, to be honest with you. Some of the bassists from that era that I like would be Slam Stewart. Um, the end of that era would be guys like Ray Brown playing with Dizzy Gillespie. Uh, that era, the jump blues era, and this is one of my favorite things is 78 RPM records. When they recorded those with a bunch of guys in one room, and the bass always sounded good. I love those records. Those the a small band like maybe 6 or 8 pieces all playing in one room, recorded electrically and put on a 78 just sounds amazing. It sounds so good. I love the way the bass sounds on those records. And that was always the kind of sound I wanted to get through an amplifier. I wanted to sound like a jump blues band where when you get up high, it's still nice and warm, but it's really punchy and it's got real substance. And that's one of the things that I was going for with my bass tone when I was trying to amplify. That's what I really wanted to hear.
I would say, as far as jump blues or any kind of blues, like first name that pops up is Willie Dixon, and he should
Yeah.
be on everyone's uh, everyday's repertoire. Like, I mean, the stuff that he played is still amazing, has amazing groove, amazing sound. He had great technique. Uh, so Willie Dixon, and then Ransom Knowling is another like blues guy
Hmm.
that you should find. Uh, his recordings are great, and I especially like the stuff that he did with Robert Nighthawk, and
I'm writing
he
this
played
down.
with Arthur Krudev as well, if I remember correctly. As far as more modern guys, I would I would um, I like to mention Larry Taylor, who passed
Yeah.
last year, and he was doing great blues stuff, great jump blues stuff. He was slapping, and he sounds. I always loved him. He played with Tom Waits. He played with Hollywood Fats. If you're looking for this particular style, then I would recommend Hollywood Fats, especially. And from the old guys, I would also mention Ernest the Big Crawford. He was
Hmm.
especially the song "I Can't Be Satisfied." That's the one that you kind of definitely want to check out. And another contemporary guy that's really into jump blues that I would like to mention is Jimmy Sutton. If you're not familiar
Oh
with Jimmy,
yeah.
he's
Right.
excellent. He even subbed for Kevin in High Noon when Kevin was on tours with Dwight, I believe. And
Hmm.
check out especially his band. You might know him from JD McPherson band, but you might like to check out his band Four Charms. They put out 2 records, I believe, and I love those records. His playing is
Yeah.
excellent. The groove is there, donation is there. Creativity, everything that you want to see, it's excellent. So
He sounds like a Chicago bass player. You know,
yes,
he sounds like a Chicago bass player would sound. He's one of the greats, absolutely.
yes. So that was the question. That was the answer for Stefan. Yes. Okay. I'm just like going slowly through these questions. Like so many questions. Thanks so much. All right. So this is a question for you. I hate answering this question. I never know. What is your string height at the end of your fingerboard?
I don't know. I can look. Give me a second here.
When people ask me that, it's sorry, Mark. I don't hate this question, but I just don't know how to answer because I just like set it up and set it up the way I like it to be, and that's it. So I never know what is the height. But Kevin is measuring now, so
It's just a little bit less than a half an inch.
okay.
Yeah. So, and that's set up for slap. That's a little high. Uh, I know Ryan Gould's action
Yeah, don't
is
ask Ryan.
insanely high. He has crazy
Yeah.
high action, and he sounds great.
I love
I
playing
think
his bass. I mean, that's kind of the setup that you want to have if you want to sound like Bill Johnson.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's great. So we have like a few more questions. Not sure if we'll get a chance like to do. You guys are still here. It's almost 2 hours. It's amazing. All right. So Jason, Kevin, what exercises would you recommend for cleaning up slap techniques so that those percussive notes are really distinct?
Play it nice and slow, really, really slow. Start out just really exaggeratingly slow. Make the movements nice and big, and make sure that you hit the slap clean. And when you grab the note and pull it out, and then let go of the string, make sure that's nice and clean. Just start nice and slow, exaggerated motions, and as you do that, slowly speed it up, make the motions a little bit smaller, and just keep doing that and just practice it. And like you said, every note should be succinct, every slap should be succinct. So play it nice and slow. Start slow, start relaxed.
Yeah, for my thing was always like the way I uh, was thinking about it and was I was developing. I like practicing slap on open strings. That's something that I got. I mentioned that earlier. Something that I got from practicing with the bow, and it's really helped me out. I have like a few exercises or etudes that I wrote that I go through if I want to build stamina. Um, so we have a question from James Doken. What slap style do you wish new players incorporate in their style? A lost art slap, you could say.
Geez, I don't know. I don't, whatever they like. I want somebody to, I want to be able to hear a bass player and go, oh, I know that guy, so it's going to be different for everybody. And it's going to be, depending on who you listen to and maybe even the weather where you live. I've always thought that places like Texas are great for the South in general. I think is great for a kind of slow, maybe bluesy, swingy feel stuff because the weather, because it's hot. You know, I mean, I don't think it's quite as easy to um, play a nice, slow, laid back groove when you're really cold. And now, and this is a broad generalization, of course, but all those things should influence you, and you should just sound like yourself. So play
Yes,
whatever you
let's
want to
go.
play.
From Stefan Fairley, like some good slow high noon songs. I'm not sure if he's referring to something that we talked about, but maybe he wants to hear from you which slow high noon songs you would recommend.
Jeez, I don't think we did any slow songs, man. we put out a Bear Family Records released a retrospective on High Noon a few years ago, and it's it's one disc, which is limited amount of time, and I think we had 24 songs on there. Our songs are about 2 minutes, so we don't play much slow stuff. He may have been asking, responding to a question about how to practice and make sure that you're playing succinctly, and that's a good example to listen to somebody playing slow and really, it's like John Clayton says when practicing scales, he's like, you listen to the scale and the arpeggio and the chord that you're playing, and you have to be able to hear it in your head, and you have to be able to sing it and let it absorb into your body. It just becomes part of your body. So when you're learning a harmonic minor scale, be sure that you listen to it and be sure that you can sing it. And as you practice it, let it sink into your body and it becomes part of you. So I think that might be similar with practicing slap stuff, is knowing exactly what you want to hear, being able to sing it and really absorb it into your body and play it slow and get it till it comes out the way you want it to sound.
One thing that I just played a little High Noon. It was not slow, but it was a great tune. One thing that I wanted to ask you is, what would be the most essential slap bass recordings for you? Not from you, but like for you.
Yeah. Oh man, like just right off the top of my head, the first thing I would say would be Bill Haley, because that stuff is just so frenetic, frantic, urgent. I absolutely love that stuff. It's all the things I just said. It's so exciting. As soon as you put that stuff on, I'm moving around, man. I love it. So that would be some. I don't know. There's maybe not too many specific things. There's maybe specific styles. I love Western swing stuff. I really, really like old string band music, whether it's Western swing or more hillbilly kind of stuff, or more jazz influenced stuff like Eddie Lang and Joe Venuti. Just when electrified instruments were just starting to come in, I think that's my favorite era. And I think the bass players were still playing physically hard to be able to be heard over the band, to be able to heard through all the other instruments that are playing. So that specific sound and that style of bass playing is probably my favorite stuff. So, and that's, there's evidence of that in traditional folk music like conjunto. There's pop music like Ukulele Ike has great slap bass stuff on it. Western swing.
What was the song that you mentioned from Ukulele Ike that people should check out? You mentioned that at the summit.
Yeah, there's a song called Halfway to Heaven that has just an insanely great slap bass intro.
I have to write that down.
Yeah.
You should do it too. Not you, Kevin, but everybody else.
Yeah.
Halfway down. Is that what you said?
Halfway to Heaven.
Halfway to heaven.
Yeah. And it's, Ukulele Ike was kind of a novelty performer. I'm in the 20s and 30s, I'm guessing. Did a lot of like solos on like tissue paper and comb kind of thing, kind of like a kazoo maybe. But just great, man. Just the slap bass on that tune specifically is great. And one of the things that I like about a song like that is that the slap is an important part of one part of the arrangement, and then it kind of goes away and changes, and then it comes back again. So it's very specifically like, well, we want this part to sound urgent and exciting and very danceable, and then we'll go into another part and it's like, no, we're not going to do that here. So I like hearing that kind of differentiation of grooves inside a song. There's a song by Farron Young called I Hear You Talking, and I think it's probably Bob Moore, guessing by the way he plays on that. He does almost like a rumba figure through most of the verses. Then he gets into the chorus and he goes into a straight two beat, and the groove of the song just opens up. It's really cool. And I really like that stuff. I really like their to be an arranged slap bass part, I think is really cool.
There's like so many essential recordings. I can't, I was curious, what would you say? There will be it. Like, I wonder, like, if there are like any other cool questions. I think we should be wrapping up soon. It's almost 2 hours, but it's like, I'm like, thank you everybody. I can't thank you enough. Like, it's just amazing to see all these people still here, still watching, and it's just like great. If you haven't, subscribe to the channel. Let me know that way that you like this. As I said, single slap the like button and double slap the subscribe. All right, so I have a question for everybody that's watching. Who would you like to see on the slap stream? Who would you like me to interview? And once this slap stream is over, the live stream is over, the video gonna stay here. So feel free to share it, embed it, like post it, whatever you want to do. Promote it as much as you can. I just remember like how hard it was, like before the internet, to find any kind of information, like finding your VHS that you did with Mark Rubin, The Ungentle Art, was a nightmare. I mean, I remember I had to ask ex-boyfriend from my ex-girlfriend at the time, who was living in the States, to order from, I believe, Mark's website, and it was something like delivery 2 weeks or so, or something like that. So he had to wait, and then I first had to convince him to do that, convince her to buy that VHS for me, and then he got it, and I finally got it, after months of waiting or something in Serbia, and I was really happy, to see you guys doing that thing. That's, lots of people ask actually about the Ungentle Art VHS. Is that still available, or?
It is not available right now. I need to print some copies up. I need to press it to a CD and sell it again. Sell it as a DVD. But I want to do that through Ridge Runner Video. So that's something that, that's a project that is going to happen one of these days.
It's one of those projects that, you want to do it for years, and you finally do it. And then people say, oh yeah, this DVD is out. Okay, cool. They don't understand how much effort, like, and how much time it takes, like, to do all these little things. I love that VHS. Was that ever on DVD, or was just VHS?
Yeah, it got transferred to DVD eventually.
Oh, cool.
But it's been a long time.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, DVD as a format is almost dead, or it is dead.
Yeah.
Question as far as that goes, like, is there a sequel to that? Do you want to do another one? Do you plan to do another one?
I wouldn't mind doing one, but I'm not sure that there's, I don't know if there's, it seems like as soon as you would make something like that, it would be available to the public. It's like once you put it out there, it's going to get copied, it's going to get spread around. So, I think if anything, I should probably start a YouTube channel and just do some lesson stuff, maybe. And I also give lessons. So if anybody wants a lesson, you can get a hold of me through my Instagram there, and I can teach you the basics. And but yeah, that's stuff. There's so much information on the internet right now. If somebody really wants to know how I play stuff, they can find me, and I'll give them a lesson.
Yeah, I can't talk enough how lessons could be important. It's just like, you can, like, one lesson can change, it can save you literally like months of practicing by yourself, and just like giving you it just helps tremendously. It's just, I don't know, that helped. I mean, I went to the whole, like, spent like 14 years in classical and jazz music school, and then it really helped me out. I don't recommend, like, you to do that, like, if you just want to play rockabilly, but it really helped me out with intonation, technique, just approach, understanding music, all these little things, and then analyzing, how harmonies and counterpoint works and all of that. It's really, really, really helpful. I think that's about it. Like, is there anything else, Kevin? It's been
I don't
2
think
hours,
so.
but it feels like it's been 20
Yeah.
minutes for me. Is there anything else that you want to mention?
I don't think so. Can I put my PayPal up there so if somebody wants to make a small donation?
Sure.
Is
Just
that
write
cool?
it down
Okay.
in the comments.
Okay,
I
cool.
wrote
Yeah, I'll
all
do that.
Kevin's handles for his social media under the video, so make sure to follow him. I put mine as well, so follow me as well. Follow Art of Slap Bass. That's the most important. Um, and and the wait for Kevin's comment here.
Yeah, I don't know
It
how
will
to
be
put a
there and it
comment
will
in. I
stay
don't see the
there.
spot
So
for it.
since the video gonna stay on YouTube. Um, I'm great. Like, I mean, I just, I want to, like, with this whole thing, I want to make sure that everybody understands that there's no bad music. You can learn, from any style, any player. I often learn from my students. I wish I had like more time teaching, but I don't. But I often do that. All right. Thank you, Kevin. Is there anything else you want to mention? Is that about it, or?
I think that's it. I'm not. I can't figure out how to put my comment into the thing. So maybe you can add
I
that
think you
or
should
something.
do. You can do it on YouTube.
Okay, cool.
Go on YouTube, but I would recommend doing that now because it's going to be a live on the
Okay.
live chat. That's
Yeah,
what
right.
everyone's
Okay, let me see
comments
if I
are.
can get this.
So whatever
Okay.
you feel like it might be. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
this
like
looks
a new thing for both of us. We did
right.
that Slap Summit last week, but it was different. It was a little slower paced, and it was just six or seven of us, like talking, and so it's just fulfill all this time with just two guys. It's a little bit harder, and I really want to, give space to everyone that I think deserves and I really want to, give space to everyone. All right, I think that's it. All right, thank you, Kevin. I really want to, you're still there? Do you hear me? All right, I think that's it. All right, thank you, Kevin. I really want to, you're still there? Do you hear me?
Yeah,
All
just
right.
1 second here.
Yeah, Kevin, you have two tabs open so people can see,
Okay.
can actually hear us from your YouTube. So that's the problem that I had, like at the beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I
Dorina,
got
for
it now.
pointing
I
it
think
out.
it's all
So
set. I made the comment, so if
close
somebody
that
wants to
tab.
PayPal me, that's great.
It's fine.
Cool.
So, all right. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks a lot
Thank you, Djordje.
for being the first guest of the first Slapstream episode. And I
It was
can't
an
wait
honor.
to
Absolutely.
see you play. Hopefully the gig's gonna come back soon.
Yes.
Do you have
Yeah.
anything scheduled?
Not scheduled, but I am going to start doing some live streams on Facebook from I've got a great patio out here, and I'm just going to start having some musicians that I like come over, and we'll play some Western swing or maybe some conjunto or maybe just some regular swing. Who knows what's going to happen?
Are you going to do that with your friends or by yourself?
Oh, with some friends for sure.
Oh, cool, great.
Yes.
And is that going to be on your Facebook or?
I'll promote it through Facebook and Instagram, and I'm not sure how we'll do it yet. I haven't figured it out, but I'm guessing it'll probably be a Facebook Live kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, guys, all the links for Kevin's social are down there. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right. I will.
What a fun time.
Oh, too much fun. It's 2 hours past like nothing.
Yes.
All right. I'll give a little. All right. So, bye, Kevin. See you next time, and see you in Austin or LA or whenever we can get together and play and jam and do some more slap talk.
You got it, man. Thank you, Djordje. We'll see you. Take care.
You too. All right. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you being here with us for over 2 hours. It's amazing. I plan to continue doing this, the Slapstream live from Slapsville. Plan to continue doing it every Saturday, the same time. And please subscribe. I can't mention that enough. Like and all that YouTube likes, because that really helps out other slap bass players to find quality content. So it's really helpful. So if you feel like donating, there are like a couple links down there. You can do that. That helps a lot as well. Thanks for the people that already did that. Patreon going to be live soon-ish with a bunch of tiers. And I plan to do kind of like a transcription of each episode after I do this, so that you can easier find links for all the songs that we mentioned, or like some extra information, stuff like that would be helpful for your own research. So the Patreon is down there as well. And I can't thank enough Fernando Slap from Buenos Aires for these great graphics. He's going to stay with us. He's been doing that for the Art of Slap Bass and for last couple of years. And then thanks to him, Art of Slap Bass videos look much better than they used to. And now the Slapstream as well. I would also ask you to subscribe. I just started an email list, so for slap bass events. So please send an email to contact at artofslapbass.com. That way, I'll keep you in the loop. Whatever slap thing is happening, whatever something slap related is going on. I'm already excited about the next episode. I'm still not sure who I'm going to feature. Probably some of you that it's watching right now. And I think that's about it. So follow Kevin, follow me, follow the Art of Slap Bass, and subscribe. Double slap, subscribe. I think that's it. I think like I have like a little help sheet here. I believe I mentioned everything. All right. Thanks again. And don't forget, never fret, slide it in smooth, and keep it in the groove. This is Djordje, your friendly neighborhood bullfiddle cat, and see you next Saturday.